Okay, hello and welcome everybody. I think we're now live. Just to be sure, let me just check on the live feed. Give me one moment. I don't have, oh, is this even live? Hang on, give me 1 second. Oh, yes. Okay, we seem to be live. Let me do a sound check. Yes, it works. All right, so sorry about this delay. I am relaunching my YouTube channel after a long hiatus and very intermittent, sparsely spaced videos for many years. As many of you know, I've moved to the US about, gosh, almost 6 years ago. I married William Binney, the famous NSA whistleblower, and my life was already a James Bond movie before that, but after we got together and got married, the targeting for us doubled. His targeting married my targeting, and it has been insane. So I spend most of my time trying to survive and trying to help Bill survive, and it was extremely hard actually. So uh, we did the best we could. So many times I wanted to reach out to you guys and update you about all the things that had happened in the meantime. But what they are doing to us is that they are seesawing our torture. It's either Bill being tortured or me, and there's never a time when we're both feeling fine and well enough to go online and try to tell you about structured analysis. So we haven't been doing any videos. And what who really helped us was Professor James Fetzer. At some point, he just said to us, listen, guys, let's just do a weekly show. And we have been on Bitchute. It's recorded Wednesdays, posted usually Thursdays. And if you go to Bitchute and Google our names or search on our names on the platform for Katherine Horton and William Binney and James Fetzer, you will find the show called Under Fire. So we have done a couple of shows, and you can see the last couple of weeks. You can find us there. We talked about a wide variety of topics, but I wanted to relaunch my channel where I can really just mouth off about everything and anything. Well, apart from those topics that are verboten by YouTube, which I will actually take to Rumble. I'm launching a Rumble channel as well. But there's so much more analysis that I would like to share with you that I've done over the last couple of months. And first and foremost, this channel is still dedicated to all the victims of the targeted individual program, to all the victims of the intelligence agencies who are being tortured to death and hounded to death. I know what pain you're going through. I know the grief you feel when your friends, relatives, and beloved pets are murdered in cold blood. We all experience that. Bill and I have been desperately trying to get through to the Trump administration even before Trump was reelected in September. We have been stonewalled at every twist and turn. It has been extremely hard. And after every attempt to reach out, Bill and I have been physically retaliated against severely. In my case, I survived 2 assassination attempts in autumn and winter 24. That was in direct response to I actually it's somewhere here. I got a death threat from the FBI in form of a playing card. I stuffed it somewhere. I will explain all that to you guys. But I just want all the victims out there who have been following me for many years to know that Bill and I are still fighting for you guys. Many of you submitted responses to Bill's survey and to my international survey affidavit collection of victim cases. And we are still trying our best. But the truth is that there's a vast bulwark of gatekeepers around the Trump administration, and keeping us from handing in information is even counterproductive for the protection of the president himself. But people don't care because they want him dead. So that's where we're at. So I'm relaunching my YouTube channel to catch you guys up with everything that has been happening the last 6 years. Some of it we couldn't talk about it at the time, and some of it we just couldn't because we were being tortured. I would like you guys to know that I'm still fighting for you, and so is Bill, to the best of our ability, but our ability is being diminished every year. There's a physical attrition from being gunned with directed energy weapons and especially pulsed energy projectiles all day long, and it's extremely hard. So that's where we stand. But this relaunch of this YouTube channel is my desperate attempt to put order into all the different analysis projects that I've been doing the last couple of years. I have done so many different things. It's unbelievable. And I've never really talked to you guys about my life here in the US and how different it is from Europe in many good ways and in other ways where I'm just desperate to get back home to Europe, to be absolutely honest, and take Bill with me. Um, Gosh, the truth is that the Americans are getting such a rough deal. Their life standard, unless you're coming from a third world country, their life standard is far, and I mean far below Europe. Oh my goodness. And they are being kind of kept in a bubble, and they are not being told that there are some very simple solutions to all of their problems. They have a myriad of devastating problems that I have never known about in Europe, not even during communism. I have known deprivation and poverty and crime and the terror and, but the level of this over here in the US is just so much more extreme. And I think the more the life standard of the Americans have been taken down peg by peg since the 1950s or 1960s, the more the brainwash has been ramped up to make them believe that this is the greatest nation on earth. Oh my God, every time I turn on the radio here in the US, I play what I call, US moron bingo. There are certain phrases that they are hammering into the psyche over and over again. One of them is greatest nation on earth. So greatest nation on earth, you're guaranteed to hear in the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of listening to an American radio station. Then there's, of course, Jesus, military, thank you for your service, and there's a couple of others more. But it's these repetitive things that if it were the greatest nation on earth, you wouldn't have to bang on about it. For example, Switzerland has the highest per capita, in real terms, highest per capita income in the entire world by far. And living in Switzerland, nobody banged on about how Switzerland is the greatest country on earth because they didn't need to. Nobody ever wanted to move away. So anyway, I'm not saying that just to throw shade on the US. I will get into this in great detail to try to improve their lot because the deal they are getting from their government is atrocious and they are not complaining about it because their entire lives they've been told this is the best deal you can get on earth. And it's just not true. It is not true. It's horrifying, but a vast majority of them are up to their eyeballs in credit card debt. I didn't even know people who had any debt in Germany because Germany has a culture of saving. And if you have debt, you might as well be taking drugs and cavorting with prostitutes in gangbangs because that's the level it's considered at. It's considered almost sinful to have debt. So the word for debt in German is Schulden. Schuld means guilt. It's your guilt. You're guilty. You're guilty of taking other people's money instead of earning your own. So here in the US, people have been brainwashed into thinking that credit and debt is the only way. And they all have to have a so-called FICO score, which is it actually isn't how creditworthy you are. It actually is a measure of how big a schmuck you are and how much money they can make off you. So this is why people with fairly low incomes can have a ludicrously high credit score because they have been going back to the banks, being a good little slave at regular intervals. And the banks are like, oh my gosh, dream customer. If you go to Europe, I don't know anybody who has debt. I don't know anybody who has medical debt. Nobody has medical debt, not even in formerly communist countries. Nobody has tuition debt, so student debt, because there's no tuition fees in most European countries. There is in the UK since 98, thanks to Tony Blair. But oh my goodness, the fact that the food is so atrocious in this country. I will get into all of this. RFK Jr. is trying to do something about it, but oh my goodness, is that too little, too slowly? It is horrific. So if you're wondering why I got immensely fat, and I put on probably 40 pounds. It's because the food is so bad. I talked to all my friends and relatives who've been to the US, and they said, oh, yeah, we all put on ridiculous number of pounds. So if you actually live here, you can guarantee that your health is going to be destroyed. And also, not least, because they don't have sidewalks around here. So if you think you can go for a walk, fuck you, right? You can sit in a car and you can sit in your home and you can sit at a business like a restaurant, or I don't know, you can probably go to the gym if there's one nearby and you can afford to pay, and you can, put up with the 1 hour drive to there. But otherwise, there is no infrastructure. I was always wondering, why do Americans always record these YouTube videos in their car? It's so weird. Do they not have a home? And yeah, they spend most of their life in the car. It's their home office essentially, But it's anyway. I'm rattling down the worst of the worst, and with every single thing that the Americans are facing, my message is there's a really simple solution, and there are countless countries that have figured it out, sometimes centuries ago. For example, health insurance or any type of insurance. It was invented in Hamburg in the shipping communities. So they figured out how devastating it is if a ship sinks and suddenly your entire livelihood is, gone, and your widow and your little orphan children have to fend for themselves. So they came up with insurance. Now, what we call insurance in Europe is very cheap. What the Americans call insurance, especially health insurance, is a ginormous scam where everybody takes a huge cut. It is a scam. And I have come across one solution called, I think it's called, is it Christian Healthcare Ministries? I have to look up the exact number, but they are what we call insurance in Europe, health insurance, but they emphasize, and probably for legal reasons they have to do so, that they are not insurance. They are, what do they call themselves? A faith-based cost-sharing community. I'm like, duh, that's the definition of insurance, you morons. But they are not allowed to call them that because in the US, if you call yourself health insurance, you have to factor in the scam for super complex legal reasons that I still have to dig out and find out. But anyway, so the US is, oh God, it is a ginormous scam as regards food, as regards work. Education, don't get me started. School, higher education is a mind-blowing joke. Personal safety, infrastructure, building codes. Oh my God. And they get their lives devastated over and over by these things. It's really unregulated. They don't really have human rights charities or community groups. They don't really have communities anymore. It was quite a hell of a ride, I have to say, the last 6 years. But anyway, I am rattling all this down because most of the time it's the bane of my existence, but also because every single thing has a really simple solution. There are really simple solutions how to make the elections safe and actually make elections safe all around the world. There's very simple solutions about how to drain corruption and make systems, of high integrity again. There's super easy solutions of how to build communities to make them safe for cyclists and, moms pushing prams and joggers and dog walkers. There is so many solutions and they're out there, but all the Americans are being deprived of these. And there's Sean Hannity for 3 hours per day telling them that they live in the greatest nation on earth so that they never, ever, ever, ever look outside for a solution. Meanwhile, this is my sixth country, actually. This is the sixth country I lived in my life. And I have seen so many different systems and approaches, so many different solutions and problems. There's always something you can do. I have never met a nation that runs around claiming they're the greatest nation on earth. I've never heard the Belgians say it. I mean, the Germans did say it for a while and then stopped, thankfully, right? The Hungarians don't say it. Every nation has a kind of like self-irony, especially the Romanians. Romania has been through so much communism and then the acid stripping of the 1990s, and they have phenomenal self-deprecating humor. but very kind of like sarcastic realism. And it's always like this very high level of reflection. And the Americans have none of that. It has been brainwashed out of them through repeated cycles, and they have been pigeonholed into perfect slavery that is much more complete than any of the European countries. And yes, if you talk to American, they throw the mass immigration in your face and they say, yes, but look at London, look at Paris. And I'm like, yeah, but look at Wales or look at Scotland that still has free higher education. Look at Germany, where higher education is for free, not just for all the Germans, but hey, get a clue, also for all the overseas students. So if you want to study medicine, or another thing that's super expensive, veterinary medicine, you can come to Germany, study for free, your accommodation will be cheaper, and guess what? Anatomy and physiology is the exact same in Germany as in the US. So there are solutions where, you know, you can hustle your way to a much higher quality of life, but for that, you have to look outside your own little country or continent. The problem is it's not a little country, it's a continent where coast to coast, they get the same brainwash. They're never exposed to anything different. And if they look south, it's like, oh, it's a third world country. If they look north to Canada, oh, it's a third world country. So, hey, we're the greatest on earth, nation on earth. Good God. So anyway, life in the US is sometimes ridiculously hard for no good reason. And on top of that, they have this proliferating military that they worship, despite the fact that it's their own military torturing them to death. But they are brainwashed by Sean Hannity to say thank you for your service and, continue worshiping this ginormous behemoth apparatus. And the funny thing is, it's not even controlled by them. The truth is, Trump and his secretary, it's now renamed Secretary of War, not Secretary of Defense, they don't control the military. They control jack shit. The only thing they get from the military, apparently, is psyops. And I will get into great detail. And yeah, I bring it up. I'm sorry, it's quite late. I'm probably grumpy, but I'm bringing it up because I'm announcing that on this YouTube channel, I will go through everything and I will show up how easy it is not to be fucked over quite this hard by your government. If people only had a bit of self-reflection, turned on their brains, and actually used it, life would be so much easier and better. And there was once upon a time in the US, there was a culture of not being subservient to your military. Back in when the soldiers came back from Vietnam, they were spat at because people didn't want this proliferating military and these, no foreign engagements and all that. But all that has been brainwashed out of them. And it's so good to be married to Bill and him having seen the whole development. He was born in the early 1940s. He has seen the whole thing unfold, but he remembers the time before all this, before the military and the intelligence agencies became professional brainwash and psyop operations and devastated the entire country and fucked everybody up the brain. So there was once upon a time a different US, and we have got to get back to that, people, because you Americans have fallen far below the level of Europe in development. Your school system sucks. Your hospitals suck so bad. I had to rescue Bill twice out of a hospital or they would have killed him. And that's not even COVID. That's just normal hospital operations. And my goodness, your life could be so much better. Your houses could be so much safer. Anyway, so this is everything I'm going to talk about. And why is this all relevant to the targeted individuals and all that? Because the main point of this YouTube channel is the intelligence agencies. It's because the intelligence agencies were instrumental in brainwashing the American people so hard they forgot their roots, where they came from, what their grandparents knew, and they've now become what I would call a rootless, rudderless, fragmented, isolated society that is really easy to pick off one by one. And that's what the globalists and this global cabal seem to be doing. To give you an idea, something that I found mind-blowingly shocking when I came to the US is that men kept talking to me about feminism and how devastating feminism was. Now, actually, before I get into that, let me just check if the sound level is still working on the YouTube channel as I expected to do. Hang on. Okay, here we go. Yes, it seems to be working. So when I came to the US, the number of men who said that feminism messed up relationships, of feminism destroyed their marriages. And in Europe, feminism means your right to vote. It means maternity leave, sometimes paid maternity leave, or they can't just sack you because you got pregnant. And it means equal pay for equal work. That's it. As far as I know, that's it. So I come over here and these men tell me, oh, yeah, feminism, gosh, that, it made women undateable. And in my head, it passes as, the right to vote made women undateable. Good God, when they started being paid the same as us for the same amount of work, gosh, forget about it. They are insufferable, right? So that's, of course, not what it is. But I heard it so much that at some point this year, I sat down, when I heard it for the umpteenth time, also from Bill, by the way, and he's a really nice guy. I sat down and did some research about what feminism actually means here in the US. And oh my goodness, feminism, as it has been rolled out, for it has been rolled out by central diktat, is brainwashing women and also men to react to this brainwash of women, but especially brainwashing women into total insufferable cunts. I have never seen anything like it in my entire life. I have watched countless dating reports, relationship commentary by men and women here in the US. And wow, my goodness, it's terrible. And the marriage rate is collapsing. The number of single people is exploding. They are throwing, loneliness at each other. Women say there's male loneliness. Men say, no, we're perfectly fine by ourselves. There's female loneliness. Fact of the matter is, a huge number of people are very lonely and they are dreaming about the perfect man and woman instead of just, loving somebody who's just as desperate as them. But the point is, I have never met anything like it in Romania and Hungary and Switzerland or Germany or the United Kingdom or France or any other places I've, been to and stayed at or have relatives in. So there's something very specific that has been done to the United States. And when I looked into it, sure enough, I found distinct, very easily provable brainwashing operations by, guess whom? The intelligence agencies. I found they're paid little influencers who are using mind control techniques that I know to stem from these intelligence agencies, and they are being deployed to literally break up relationships. Why? Well, for two reasons. Number one, if everybody lives by themselves, house prices go up and places, Vanguard and BlackRock and all these places will have huge income from increasing rents, increasing house prices, and all the rest. The second thing is related to these modern weapons and non-consensual human experimentation. When people live by themselves, you can run very controllable experiments and weapons testing on them without their knowledge and consent. And they are totally vulnerable. They don't have witnesses, and you can kill them off and nobody cares. It's that simple. It's a gift that keeps on giving for the intelligence agencies. So they seem to have put a lot of money into it to convince women to divorce their husbands, to convince women that no guy is ever good enough for their, sublime princess standards, and to convince men that rather annoying but quite common features about women are just, so bad they can't put up with it. And the other thing is that they've also made divorce law such that it's basically an asset stripping operation. So I have to look into that bit a bit more, but from the reports I heard, if a woman just on a whim decides to divorce you, you lose your livelihood. she will get half your stuff, and then she will get probably half of your income. If there's child support, she can get more than half of your income, but it's devastating. She can stay at home. You have to continue working, and men's lives are being destroyed by that, especially when the reason for divorce is not something serious like actual abuse, but is some fatuous allegation of a toxic relationship, which could be anything. Leaving your gym bag in the hallway for too long could be already toxic to these bitches. So anyway, it is mind-blowing, and I feel so very sorry for any man and woman who's trying to find, somebody to love under these circumstances, and the entire world around you has been artificially and professionally distorted. That will be another topic I would like to get into. You probably wonder, why the heck is she talking about dating? If you lived here in the US, you would know exactly why. It's a very big deal, and it is breaking up the fabric of society extremely efficiently. That's what's happening. It's breaking up already formed families. It's, breaking up dads and moms, and the life of children. It's a big op, and I found the fingerprints of the intelligencies all over this. And it really takes somebody who has studied them and their techniques for a long time to pick up on some things that other people would think is nothing, but it's anything but nothing. So I would like to talk about that. But in summary, sorry, today is just a very rambling video because I'm basically using this as an ice-breaking video, an icebreaker for myself. I've been procrastinating on coming online and talking to you guys because I felt so bad that I wasn't able to do so earlier. That's it in a nutshell. So today I have been procrastinating the whole day, which is why I start in the middle of the night. And I just thought, screw it. I'm just going to dive in and talk to the people who are willing to listen. And I will lay out the program going forward. I would like to go online 2 or 3 times per week, or whenever the hell I come across something that is so freaking outrageous, I want to talk about it. And the whole point is to raise an issue at the start of the video and spend the rest of the time talking about solutions. So when I shit all over US building codes, which is a freaking joke, I will show up the way to build your home such that fast-moving air will not blow it over. Okay, just to give you an example. Because somehow we don't have hurricanes and tornadoes, but we do have floods and fast-moving water. If fast-moving water can't topple your house, then fast-moving air will not be able to do so by the laws of physics. Okay, so there's ways you can build your home such that you don't lose your livelihood every time there's a tornado or a hurricane. And I find it baffling that for the 250 years people lived here, they haven't figured out how to do that. But apparently it's a big deal. So anyway, so many things hang in together. The fact that people don't have that much money, that somehow they never really have the same sort of permanence to their existence here. In Europe, if you build a house, you build it such that it lasts 100 years. If it doesn't last 100 of years, why start? Don't you want your children and grandchildren to live here? And then in America, people are moving around so much that nothing ever feels permanent. So they have these so-called stick-built, houses that, I kid you not, are made up of planks of wood held together by screws. I have seen 4 and 5 level hotels being built in a town near us with not a single, I'm not joking, not a single metal girder, not a single wall with, cement, however you pronounce it, and mortar. Nothing. It was just like you would build a house from toothpicks. That's what it looked like. And yeah, if there's a hurricane, that thing comes crashing down and will kill everybody inside. Maybe that's the plan all along. I have no idea. But it's dumbfounding just how incompetent things are sometimes here in the US. But anyway, when I crap all over it, it's because there's a very simple solution, easy to hand. And I really, in my heart, I really would love to want to stay in the US permanently. It would be great. I didn't move back to Europe, or I didn't return to Europe because most of you probably don't know, but Bill is a double amputee. He has his family here. I didn't want to uproot him. It's easier for me to just change countries again for the sixth time than it is for Bill to move somewhere permanently different for the very first time. He's been abroad. He also stayed longer term abroad, but he's never really moved to a different country permanently, like, without intention of ever returning back home like I did so many times in my life. So yeah, but my God, it started with every 6 months I would have a complete meltdown about wanting to go home because I can't put up with this shit. Then it became every 3 months, then every month. And at some point I'm at every 2 weeks. I just have a major meltdown and I just want to go home. In fact, here, the European viewers probably don't know, but there's an entire big drive to stop immigration to the country. And Tom Homan, who I think is really doing an amazing job, they closed the open border towards the south, and they came up with this app, Tom Homan's app, which actually was first an app to facilitate uncontrolled, proliferating immigration. And they took the app and they turned it into a voluntary deportation app. And I said to Bill, when the app comes out, I just want to be the first person to download it and deport myself back to Europe. Really, I had enough. And especially when you're a target and you come to a country with the best of intentions, trying to give your absolute best, and then the fuck-ass military and the intelligence agencies just torture you and maim you and brand you. I got a branding across the top of my forehead, which you probably can't see because of the webcam color, whatever it does. But they branded my forehead again after the Swiss did it and the Austrians. And I got nearly murdered several times. They are torturing Bill every day. And then the infrastructure is non-existent and everything is really shit. And you ask yourself, why the fuck are we still here? I mean, the Swiss tortured me, but life quality in Switzerland. Now, Switzerland is the greatest nation on earth, okay? If you want the correct answer, it's Switzerland, everybody. They have a direct democracy. They're the wealthiest ever. They have phenomenal infrastructure, super low bureaucracy because they don't have enough people to fuck with you, basically. Nobody cares. Everybody's just rolling in money and wants to be left alone. It's the best country ever, ever, ever to live in, and I would, given half a chance, I would go straight back there. Meanwhile, coming from Switzerland straight to US, don't do it. Go to, I don't know, some other place. Go to a third world country first before you come here. But there's no infrastructure at all. And what makes it worse, because heck, I lived in communist countries. I don't mind deprivation, but what makes it absolutely unbearable is an uncontrollable amount of arrogance in people who tell you that this is literally the only way it can possibly be because this is the greatest nation on earth. And you're like, dude, where I come from, there are 20 countries that don't have this problem. And most of them are formerly communist countries that had no money, all right, and massive corruption. So why is this so bad? But and if you point out that something is subpar, they will get upset because Sean Hannity told them every day for the last couple of decades that this is in fact the greatest nation on earth, and everybody else who says otherwise go get fucked. And you're like, well, the only people who got fucked are the people who stayed here and never got angry enough to do something about it. The point is to realize, guys, this is freaking ridiculous. And you have 320 million people who could come up with a solution as long as they would know that they have to come up with a solution. If you subdue them by telling them, guys, this is the best thing ever, don't hope for anything better, that this is the only way you can be, then yeah, everybody's like, great, let's go grilling, let's have a barbecue, sit in our super overpriced and actually very unsafe trucks and make, YouTube videos about how dating sucks and how bad women are. That's what they seem to be all doing. Anyway, this is a super rambling video, but I'm basically vomiting out pent up bullshit that I put up with for the last 6 years. And these videos, I promise you, will be me putting them all into order and going through everything, and we'll figure out how to do this better, and we'll come up with solutions. And of course, I'm not going to change the world, but at least I can look back and say, hey, I did say how to do it better. For example, there's super easy ways to fix elections and use principles from systems analysis to make them resilient against corruption, such that the cost of corruption becomes so insurmountably high that corruption is not worth it. You can use the exact same systems analysis principles to make anything else high integrity, to make government spending high integrity, and put such a ginormous cost on corruption that it's not really worth anybody's time. So you push the corruption out from the public sector. It probably, flops over to the private sector. But hey, at least the stuff that you rely on every day will not be so corrupt. There are also ways to help Trump. There's Bill. He's already gone to bed, but he can tell you how to fix deep capture and government corruption, like murderous corruption, how to fix the drug trade in the country, how to drain the country from drugs and terrorism and organized crime, using the stuff that the taxpayer already paid for in the NSA databases, the tools that, can run over those databases that he built. There are super easy solutions to absolutely everything we're dealing with today. Very, very simple solutions. And if we just all wake up to them and maybe try to implement them and realize, holy shit, our life just got better, then we could all ratchet to higher life quality here in the US, and then I don't have to flee this country. I'm joking. I mean, look, I'm so tired today. I don't care. You hear Katherine Horton, totally unfiltered, totally rambling, off the cuff. I'm not going to be like this throughout my videos all the time, but I'm just letting off steam, okay? There's other stuff that's happening right now. For those in Europe that are wondering, is Trump a good guy or is Trump a bad guy? Well, look, I knew about Trump and I followed his work already when I was in Europe, but since I came here, I followed it with a fine comb, all right? And now listen carefully. What Trump, the man Donald Trump, is doing is phenomenal. The guy works like a draft horse, okay? He is pulling the country out of the swamp and the devastation that is being pushed into single-handedly. He is like a super engine on a Boeing that was nosediving rapidly, and he's pulling up the nose by himself. Everything Trump does, every time the guy goes online and does a press conference, I am floored. I'm so impressed. Everything he says, I'm like, yep, totally best thing ever. Do it. There's no way to improve it. Where it really crashes is what other people are doing. That's the thing. Because he is not a dictator, he has to entrust stuff to the DOJ and to the FBI. And that is where things start going badly wrong. And I'll go into the details. And my God, well, it's hard to pin it down because you're never privy to private conversations in the White House, but I have reasons to believe that President Trump and those people in his administration who are genuinely of high integrity are being led up the primrose path by a ginormous gatekeeping operation around them by the intelligence agencies, by their infiltrators, by their plants. There's many indications for that. Most people in Europe will not know, but you guys probably heard about President Trump nearly being shot dead on July 13th last year. But very few of you know about him nearly being shot dead on October 17th, right? So the Secret Service found a sniper's nest on October 16th, the day before, in the 11th hour. It was just south of Palm Beach International. I will also go into the details and I will show you where the sniper's nest was according to news reports and why that is really important. But the sniper's nest is said to have had a direct line of sight onto where President Trump would have stepped out of Air Force One. So that's the day, it's the next day on Friday, so October 17th, he would have flown back to Mar-a-Lago. That was kind of foreseeable because the previous weekend he flew to Asia and he worked his ass off. He must have been jet lagged to hell. I would have been. So on Friday, it was foreseeable that he would just go back to Mar-a-Lago, recover, recuperate, reset, and then go back on Monday or Sunday night rather. So it was completely foreseeable that Trump would be flying to Mar-a-Lago on October 17th. And that's in West Palm Beach. So Palm Beach International is the closest airport where Air Force One lands. And lo and behold, on October 16th, the Secret Service finds a sniper's nest. Now, what none of you know is that I have been, ever since the Butler assassination attempt, I have been following anything I could related to the announcement of the next assassination attempt. You probably heard about James Comey saying, what was it, 86-47. So 80 to 86 means to, get rid of, to kill somebody. So it was the announcement by the FBI director, former FBI director, to kill Trump. There was Gretchen Whitmer. She did a similar thing. I was before Butler. And then now we have this newest announcement. So I knew that according to the cartel signaling, the FBI gave a kill order against President Trump. So there must be cartel signaling signs all around us. And if we're just smart enough to spot them, then we should be able to figure it out. Why? Because the intelligence agencies announce everything to their followers. To some extent, they have to, for gloating purposes, and because they can't just send a memo to their insiders, because that would be recorded in the NSA databases. And one day when President Trump and his administration figures it out, they can unmask everything by just going to the NSA databases and searching them in a smart way. And no, Palantir will not do that for you, because Palantir is the deep state. Okay, so forget about that. But if you're just clever, like Bill Binney knows how to do it, you can get it very quickly. So the deep state cannot send a text message and, a memo, an email, or make a phone call or a Zoom call or a Skype call. Skype doesn't exist anymore. But anyway, you can't do a Signal, Face, or Facebook FaceTime in any of these things, because it would be recorded. You would incriminate yourself. So they use these coded symbols that are absolutely ancient, and they put it right out there. And those symbols I came across, they hinted at President Trump being assassinated on a day related to the 17th, and the symbols became louder and louder. So I was like, holy shit, that looks like October 17th. And it seemed to also point towards aviation. So where I got to with my analysis leading up to October 17th is that on that day, Trump is to be shot on October 17th, somehow related to aviation. That's the only thing I could figure out. What really freaked me the fuck out is that on October 17th itself, I had no idea the Secret Service found a sniper's nest the day before, because that was not announced until Sunday. So we're talking Friday. And on Friday, inside the White House, in the Rose Garden, the one that Trump renovated and now has like a stone patio, they also have a speaker system and they play music. It's now a really, really beautiful outdoor area. Now, in that outdoor area, they were blaring out Time to Say Goodbye, Andrea Bocelli's famous #1 song, because Andrea Bocelli was visiting the White House that day. That is just too much coincidence. All right. So imagine there's this visit, which has been probably, booked months before, or certainly weeks before. But who controls President Trump's calendar? Whoever controls the calendar just so happened to arrange it perfectly that Andrea Bocelli is at the White House and they can be blaring out Time to Say Goodbye through the loudspeakers just before Trump is going to embark on Air Force One and fly to Palm Beach International, and in their plans, be shot. Right? So, yeah. So in my analysis, and I will go into many more details about this, In my analysis, President Trump's life is in severe, like in grave danger, and his families and his supporters and his administration in really acute, grave danger. And October 17th would have been it. It would have been Butler 2.0. And whoever in the Secret Service found the sniper's nest the night or the day before saved the president's life. So if you're working for the Secret Service and it was you or your team, thank you. Thank you, because without you, the president would be dead. So yeah, but my gosh, another deductive lead that arises out of that is it follows directly that inside the White House, whoever controls the president's schedule or whoever received a message or nudge to book Andrea Bocelli for that day, to set up this perfect sequence, this perfect cartel signaling sequence, they are co-conspirators to murder. Maybe not the person who actually booked this because they just got the instructions, but whoever has the power to shuffle the schedules around and who is the master of President Trump's schedule. I don't think this is him. It's some secretary type, somebody in the White House, whoever's job this is. They were co-conspirators to his murder, okay? And I am 100% sure about that because there's no freaking way that by random chance you can have this align perfectly. And with everything I know about the intelligence agencies, that's exactly the sort of thing they would be doing. All right, so yeah, for my European viewers, we nearly lost President Trump 2 months ago. Gosh, almost 2 months ago, months and a half ago, whatever it was. And it's horrifying to think because without President Trump, this country is fucked. There is no change. There is no make America healthy again or make America great again with President Trump, without President Trump. And there's literally nobody right now who could step into his shoes and take over. So that's already a problem. The American people need to wake up. The patriots need to wake up. And many more people need to work towards draining the swamp at the state level, at the local level, at the federal level to actually make this succeed and to stop. The way to make Trump safer is to stop making him a single point of failure. So single point of failure in engineering is if you have one screw, if that one screw goes, you know, the whole engine blows. You can't have that. In the meantime, I'm trying to educate the whole world about cartel signaling so that many more people can keep an eye on these things, because I'm telling you, the deep state operates in a way that they have always announced everything. They will continue announcing everything. And by looking at their announcements, you get leads on all the co-conspirators. You can figure it out. Now, the problem is right now, this is also relevant for targeted individuals. The FBI isn't working. Kash Patel has put out so much cartel signaling, and I will go through it in detail. Masonic cartel signaling, tongue-in-cheek facial expressions, emphatic ones repeatedly in press conferences. When you know the cartel signaling, he announced that he is a Masonic crown agent. So forget the FBI for the time being, unless he's removed. I have not seen anything like that from Dan Bongino. So my personal view is that Trump needs to remove Kash Patel and move Dan Bongino one up. But until that happens, I do not recommend any victim hand in. I mean, you can hand in your case to the FBI. Maybe they do something. I hope that would be great. But otherwise, I would say your only hope is to go straight to court. You will not get any help from the FBI as far as I can make out. Why? Because not even Charlie Kirk's parents got any help from the FBI investigating his murder. The shit that the FBI put out about the Charlie Kirk case was, I think, 100% lies. Was it 98% lies? But everything, including what bullet was used. It's bullshit. So if the Charlie Kirk, super high profile, Turning Point USA case cannot get any proper investigation, then what hope do we little targeted individuals have? Or to make, oh yeah, yes, I nearly forgot. they also shut down the investigation into the Trump assassination attempts. And this is despite the fact that just little me with my $200 refurbished laptop from Walmart found half a dozen of leads of co-conspirators at Butler who were all in on it and knew that a shooting would happen that day. So there are all these leads. I mean, the Thomas Crook story is nonsense from start to end. But then the deep state FBI back, in Butler time, they, on the 13th of July, the 14th of July, actually washes down the roof to remove DNA evidence, by the way, that the shooter, the body on the roof is not Thomas Crook's, and the DNA doesn't match with the parents. They bleach also the house, the Thomas Crook's house. So people who go there say that it's like a hospital. It's bleached. There's no DNA evidence. And then, of course, the body of the shooter was cremated before the pathologist report came out. I'm not even sure if there's a pathologist report. It just all went, who cares? Move along, citizen. All these three things are only necessary if you have to remove DNA evidence. If you have to remove DNA evidence, you have to do all these three things. And otherwise, you don't have to do any of them. So DNA is the key thing. And the DNA evidence, so the only reason you have to remove it is because the shooter on the roof is not Thomas Crook's. There is no mitochondrial DNA that matches with mom. Nothing. The shooter on the roof has nothing to do with the parents of Thomas Crook's. It's clear as day when you can look at the data and analyze it. Now, before Trump came into office, it's almost fair enough that the deep state FBI is, deep state FBIing and doing what they would do. They are deep stating, okay? They are doing what they're expected to do. But after Trump comes into office, a couple of months go by, and then Kash Patel and Dan Bongino give an interview. I think her name is Maria Bartiromo. I probably pronounce it wrong. I have to look it up. And they say that, yeah, it's all fine. Nothing to report about the Trump assassination attempts. And it's obviously a lie. And I'm like, hang on, how about you arrest the guy who washed down the roof? How about you arrest the guy who released the body under the noses of the local police for cremation? How about you arrest some people in the local police who pretended they didn't know that the FBI released the body for cremation? There's so much crime that happened. You could pick any of them and find some leads. But yet they said, no, it's all fine. So do I think the FBI is of integrity when not even the president of the United States can have his own assassination investigated? Do I think that some little targeted individual like me, or even like Bill, or anybody else could get an honest investigation from the FBI right now? Fuck no. There's no chance. So unfortunately, to you victims out there, the only people who will investigate your case are you yourself. And if you can get some friends or some other victims to help you. So I want to teach you all the tools that you can use, measuring devices, spectrum analyzers, how you can find your own body chips, how you can prove directed energy weapons, how you can, deal with the myriad other things, and all that I would like to do on this YouTube channel too. So that's the remit, guys. That's what we're going to do. And really, I want to get started tomorrow and start to roll this up. And then just chip away at it until we all know what to do. We all know what to do about deep capture, about corruption, how to drain it, how to make elections safe. There's actually a really simple method of how to do it. Takes a little bit of change, but after that, once it's implemented, people say, why didn't we always do it like that? There is ways to make this country healthier, to improve infrastructure, to protect your homes from fast-moving air, and all the other things that are going wrong around here. Because I'm telling you, oh my God, this is the year 2025, and the US just cannot stay in this state. This level of operating would be a joke in Eastern Europe, in formerly communist Eastern Europe. So that's just how how much the American people have been lied to and pushed down. And the truth is, my heart is going out to them. They are being, all nations in Europe and in the US are under the UN Agenda 2030 genocide plans, and they are being decimated. They're being culled, and people are being killed by the 5G directed energy weapon system that's masquerading as a telecommunication system. They are being killed by nanotechnology in cosmetic products and food and vaccines. They are being killed by other directed energy weapons hidden in cars, by the intelligence agencies, by their military. Schools are being weaponized. Hospitals are being weaponized. All this is happening around the world, but other countries have just better infrastructure and a much more closely knit society to deal with it. That's the thing. And the Americans are super isolated, actually. They have nowhere to turn for help. Their doctors are essentially, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the word retarded here, but so I'm not going to do it, meaning it, but they are, they are challenged with the subject of medicine already. So they will not get any help at all. I had more luck educating European doctors about body chips than I did American. There's still some prime examples. Bill's immediate doctors are very good guys. That's why they are his doctors. But otherwise, gosh, the level of educational standard in this country is also appalling. But anyway, all this can be solved. And the other thing I wanted to say is that every single problem is such that if we all put our mind to it, most of them are such that they can be solved in a year or 2 to 3 years. It's not like the project of the decades to make elections safe. That can be solved in one election cycle, actually. But, so it's really, there's hope, guys, but for that, people need to know that they have to change. Otherwise, nothing will happen. And this country will have 250 years of oh my God. And it's already at breaking point. I am at breaking point. Also, it has been, I think, 2.5 years since I've been to Europe just to visit family. So partially I'm already just suffering from, being homesick and wanting to go home and just be with my folks just for a little bit before I can face all this. But anyway, I just want you victims out there to know that behind the scenes, Bill and I have been working on a lot of stuff, and we really desperately have been trying to get through. For example, one of the other things I will talk to you about is that we've been trying to get through to the Secret Service, and we have been stonewalled, but to a level that towards the end was sadistic, psychopathic. And I would go, yeah, sure. You're not interested. And I would go, fair enough. But this is Bill Binney we're talking about. He freaking designed the system, not built, but designed the system that NSA is using to this day. All right. So you don't even want to know what he's got to say. And okay, to you guys, I look like absolute nothing. I'm better known in Europe, but I'm also not exactly fallen on my head. And I've done more to investigate the Butler assassination attempt than the FBI. So maybe I've got a couple more pointers. But who cares? They couldn't be fucked to talk to us. The truth is, I'm not going to let it go. I'm not going to let it go because the Secret Service is actually the country's only hope. The FBI is a disaster at the moment, still is. They pretend that they're doing stuff and, oh, yes, we've arrested all these violent criminals. But yeah, duh. The question is, why haven't you been doing it all along, you idiots? It's not amazing that you suddenly arrest 200 child traffickers when you should be arresting thousands of them, So the FBI is massively underperforming. Its director is openly cartel signaling with Masonic references and Crown references. So the only hope for this country is the Secret Service, that they continue to protect President Trump, that they also have an investigative division. So if they play their cards right, they could investigate the assassination attempt themselves and get a lot further in protecting Trump, his family members that are also under their care, and the other members of the Trump administration that have Secret Service protection. But at the moment, they are reliant on the FBI, and I can prove that the FBI is lying about pretty much everything that they put out. So how safe are the protectees really, you know? So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're up to here. Going forward, I will be talking about directed energy weapons, what they are. I'm going to be talking about body chip implants and what they look like, and how to measure them and what one can do about them. We're going to talk about corruption. We're going to talk about the intelligence agencies and how they got into absolutely everything, including into frickin' dating and the relationship between men and women. We will talk about building codes and how somehow, I swear, I'm convinced the building codes are so bad in the US because they're trying to kill as many Americans as they can with every hurricane and every tornado that's coming through here. We'll talk about weather warfare. That means the microwave system. It also means the geoengineering that's happening, and now people are openly talking about it. Gosh, we'll talk about neurotechnology weapons. We'll talk about absolutely everything that has anything even remotely to do with corruption, deep capture, and the intelligence agencies. So there we are. And to all the victims out there, don't despair, or maybe do despair if you hear that not even Bill and I could get through after trying for a year. But hey, let's not despair. Maybe we should all start to work together and try to get through to the Trump administration. We have to do something. And yeah, that's it. So I managed to break the ice. I managed to talk the legs off a donkey, but this was really good that you guys were listening and indulging me, because I could get a lot of things off my chest. I got into the groove again of talking about these things. And tomorrow I would like to start, I hope I can do one tomorrow. I would like to start with exposing a British intelligence operation against the beloved comedian Katie Hopkins. Okay. I will start off, because British intelligence were the first to target me. I will start the relaunch of my YouTube channel by exposing the intelligence operation they ran against Katie Hopkins. There are many that they run against her because she's talking about what's going wrong in Britain, which is also related to mass immigration and so on, which is currently verboten in the UK. And she received she experienced everything: financial warfare, psychological warfare, and other wonderful things that the intelligence agencies are doing. And I will go through that in detail. And I wager that many normal people, normal average people who are not comedians, they are not celebrities, they're not very well known, will have experienced something similar, because the intelligence agencies have a cottage industry, a proliferating cottage industry, where they do the same crap to everyday people. So if you're interested, and if you're wondering if some crazy stuff that happened to you could have been the intelligence agencies, then stay tuned, subscribe to this channel, and I promise you tomorrow I will not be quite as rambling as today. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you for helping me emotionally to get back onto YouTube and just to break the ice. I'm going to read your comments after I've switched this off, and just so good to have you guys back. And I'm just looking forward to telling you everything that we've been up to. So thank you for listening. Have a good night or good morning if you're in Europe. And until soon, hopefully tomorrow. Bye for now.